skills extend to both verbal and nonverbal cues. Nonverbal cues are gestures and motions which contribute to and enhance communication despite not using speech and instead utilizing the tools of body language, facial expressions, gestures, posture, eye contact, tone of voice, and other physical cues to communicate emotions, attitudes, and intentions. Nonverbal communication can occur intentionally, subconsciously, and can complement, reinforce, or even contradict verbal communication. It's a vital aspect of human interaction as it can provide additional context to spoken words, enhance understanding, and help convey messages more effectively. Positive nonverbal cues can enhance the message conveyed. Positive cues are facial expressions such as eye contact, smiling and nodding. Body language, which enhances communication, is often open posture and leaning, which indicate interest and engagement. Nonverbal cues that can negatively affect communication are avoiding eye contact, crossing arms, fidgeting, rolling eyes, and turning away. These motions and expressions express disinterest and a desire to end the conversation and can significantly influence the tone and outcome of interactions. The efficacy of public speaking is found in its ability to persuade, argument, and explain a point to the point where one is completely convinced. Public speaking is an important skill and must be practiced and utilized in order for it to be effective. With that introduction, I'd like to transition into my speech, Transforming Shadows into Light. Martin Luther King Jr. once stated, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that. A little bit of light can dispel a great amount of darkness, and an ounce of love can dissolve years of hatred, as expressed profoundly by Joseph throughout Genesis chapter 44. Joseph, his father's most beloved son, was sold into slavery by his brothers. Joseph persevered through several challenges and proved his wisdom, eventually becoming the Prince of Egypt. The story is one of resilience and strength, as Joseph transforms from a poor slave into a powerful Prince of Egypt, completely unrecognizable to his brothers and father. Joseph finally reveals himself to his brothers after 22 years of separation, after his brother Judah makes a heartfelt plea in hopes of persuading Joseph to release their youngest brother Benjamin from prison. Judah begs Joseph to release Benjamin from prison and instead take Judah himself as a captive, basing his argument on the welfare of their father Jacob, as he would not be able to witness his son's return without his son Benjamin. Upon witnessing the loyalty which Judah exhibited towards Benjamin, Joseph finally reveals himself. Joseph initially asks about the condition of his father and then comforts his brothers by acknowledging that in truth it was God who sent him to Egypt, and he forgives his brothers for their actions. Joseph said to his brothers, "I am Joseph. Is my father still well?" But his brothers could not answer him, so dumbfounded they were on account of him. Joseph asked a puzzling question. He asked about the well-being of his father, a seemingly appropriate question for a son to be asked after being separated for 20 years. However, Joseph is just told by his brothers that his father is alive. Why did he repeatedly ask if his father is well? In addition, the entire plea for Benjamin to be released from prison is that Jacob would not be able to bear that his youngest son was missing. Isn't it evident that Jacob is alive and well? Great sages widely debate Joseph's perplexing question and illustrate the profound motive of the question. Joseph's motive was not a mere inquiry into physical health. He was innately connected to his father and knew that he was physically alive. Rather, Joseph doubted the livelihood of his father, as he reasoned that just as his brothers had lied in the past and sold him, they could be deceiving him in this situation in hopes of releasing their brother from prison. Joseph was hesitant to believe his brothers, as his own circumstances were a product of his brothers' dishonesty and trickery. The verse then writes that the brothers were confused. Perhaps the confusion stemmed from discovering that Joseph was alive and was the minister of Egypt to whom they were appealing after being separated for 22 years. A different opinion explains that the brothers experienced confusion because Joseph was insinuating rebuke. Joseph asked his brothers, "Is my father still alive?" rather than saying, "Is our father still alive?" Joseph was accusing and rebuking them for not feeling sympathy towards their father. They had allowed Jacob to suffer the loss of a beloved son, and they had not treated their father with the respect he deserved and should be receiving that Benjamin was imprisoned. The brothers assumed that Joseph's choice of wording was a claim that they did not treat their father with respect he deserved. Joseph was not accusing his brothers to be cruel. Rather, he was demonstrating the inseparable bond and care that Joseph had towards his father. To add to the deep sense of care that Joseph had for his father, a sage explained that Joseph was talking about emotional vitality. Joseph knew that Jacob was physically alive. Instead, he was asking, is he alive emotionally and well after being so sad and mourning for all those years? Could he still be emotionally okay after so much sorrow? The pain of mourning over Joseph for 22 years is truly unimaginable, and Joseph knew that however much pain he himself experienced, his father suffered so much more. The love between Joseph and Jacob truly is indivisible. It is the love that caused Jacob to persevere. How is it that Jacob fared both emotionally and physically while he endured so much pain and sorrow? Jacob contained the power to endure such hardships at the seat of his mind. His greatest power was his perspective, a lesson we can all learn from. The remarkable optimism and perspective which Jacob carried with him is expressed in chapter 47, verse 9, during a conversation with Pharaoh. Pharaoh asked Jacob how old he was, to which he answered in a manner revealing his optimism. The verse writes, "And Jacob answered Pharaoh, 'The years of my sojourn on earth are 130. Few and hard have been the years of my life, nor do they come up to the lifespans of my ancestors during their sojourns.'" When asked about the days of his life, Jacob explained that few were bad. This is incredibly humbling, as Jacob suffered through 20 years of mourning for a son, worked for 14 years, and was a victim of trickery, was persecuted by his brother, and despite these hardships, described his life as having few bad days. Amidst the darkest of times, Jacob had an optimistic proposition on life, which provided him with the emotional well-being and stability to endure great challenges. Jacob is an exemplary illustration of the importance of having an optimistic perspective. Joseph understood that the emotional well-being of a person can be incredibly affected, and from Jacob we learn how we should strive to view our own days, our own struggles. There's a very promising and hopeful lesson we can learn from the experience of the 11 brothers, which is expressed by a great sage of Egypt. Think about the moment just before Joseph pulled the curtain back and revealed his true identity. Things were looking very bleak for Jacob's 11 sons. They had been accused of spying. Their strongest member, Simon, was already in prison, and now the Viceroy's goblet had been found in the youngest brother, Benjamin's sack. This cruel Egyptian dictator was making them crazy, and now the nail in the coffin, he was demanding to take their youngest brother, Benjamin, hostage. The family, who had a painful and torturous relationship with slavery, was terrified at the prospect of losing Rachel's other son to bondage. They knew this would be a fatal blow to their father. It couldn't have been any worse. And then, in the blink of an eye, everything dissipated. With one revelation, all of those challenges disappeared like a distant memory. For it had turned out the Egyptian tyrant wasn't a tyrant after all, but their brother who loved them and wished them no harm. Within every negative situation, there exists a concealed good. When one sees the good in their life and views their bad days as few, they possess the power to overcome their challenges, both great and small. As L.R. Noss said, life is amazing, and then it's awful, and then it's amazing again. And in between the amazing and the awful, it's ordinary and mundane and routine. Breathe in the amazing, hold on through the awful, and exhale during the ordinary. That's just living a heartbreaking, soul-healing, amazing, awful, ordinary life, and it's breathtakingly beautiful.